Evening, everybody. Car this week's well out of sync. It'll be interesting to see who we get tuned in tonight, given I've dropped this one on at last minute. But yeah, please, if you're watching, hit like, hit share, subscribe on YouTube, all the rest of it, whatever it is. But yeah, with everything going on, Wednesday, it looked like, obviously, when my schedule was going to end up missing out on question time on Wednesday because we replaced it with the auction. Obviously, the football on Tuesday when we was going to do the auction, we thought it'd be wise to sort of steer clear of that one. So, yeah, here we are. Just managed a bit, and to be honest with you, I don't like missing me question time. I know, a lot of you guys enjoy it, so got to keep it up as much as possible. But yeah, Monday, we've all got that kind of Monday feeling after the weekend, haven't we? And it's been a hell of a busy one at work today. Got the first of the shipments coming on Wednesday, which I'm quite looking forward to. So I've been busy prepping ponds for that. Already sorting out auction fish for next week as well, amongst other shipments being prepped. So, yeah, all it's all happening. Brilliant. So yeah, let's not forget Wednesday. We've got the auction coming up at 6:30. Got some absolutely superb lots lined up for that. Really enjoyed the one last week, and to be honest with you, it's inspired me to pick some even better fish out for the up and coming ones. Again, really nice mix of stuff, which is important. I'm all about fairness for everybody and everyone being able to participate. I think that's sort of been I hope that's been the theme throughout everything that we've done. It's for everyone to enjoy, and I have got some of the videos in here to just take a bit of a look at some of those fish. And yeah, Thursday it's the Taniguchi event. That's come around so quick. I cannot believe, and I've got again some of them pictures in to look at some of them in detail as well this evening. But cannot believe how quickly that one has come around, and excited. Gauging by what dealers are saying to me, there's a serious amount of demand for it. So it looks like maybe the 50 odd fish aren't going to cut it again. And if you are participating, we have sort of advised to have 2 or 3 options available because all the fish are so good. I think it's one you want to take part in. So yeah, give it a shot. But like I say, I think it's going to be competitive, and I am just going to talk through some of the fish this evening, to be honest. So what I'm going to start with, obviously, if you've got any questions, please fire them in as usual. Steve is here in the background, keeping it all running smooth. So happy days. But yeah, so some of the lots, I'm going to start with a couple, to be honest. So first time we've done it this way, put 2 sheer-up saurian out of the Akawa pond, which you might have seen on the video on YouTube when we did it. These are growing at an incredible rate. The pond these are in, if you saw it at the minute, so it's the 1,500 gallon one in the first greenhouse. If you saw the video on Sunday, it's one of the ones with the brush chambered filter at the front of it. Don't get me wrong, the water's not looking great, but when you saw these on that video, I can't remember the exact sizes, but bearing in mind there's fish up to 30 centimetre in there, and there's over 200 of them, and they're still growing. It's remarkable. They are being moved tomorrow to the 3.5K pond. Now I've prepped one up, so they are just going to absolutely fly. But I thought I'd pick a couple of lots out. These are fish that I don't normally sell this soon. I'd wait until the growing's done and then sell them, especially with higher end pieces. So yeah, here we go. This just plain Shiro, first of all, absolutely epic piece. So this, it does actually say on the photo we cocked up, it is actually in Nisai at the minute, but growing insanely well. Look at that body setup, pattern potential, all the qualities there. Looking and carrying itself like it could possibly be female as well, although that's not something we're guaranteeing at the minute. But even looking at that mouth look, huge head. So these are including growing on at my place till spring next year, which is probably going to be, I don't know, roughly around March time. So you've seen the sort of results we're getting. I think it's a pretty exciting prospect. And here we go, the Ginroom one. This was one Chris has had his eye on, to be honest. I think there's a lot more to happen with this fish, but that head is just super, super imposing fish. Again, the Ginrin ones do so well with Izakawa, Shiros, body line superb there, and Ginrin quality on them excellent, and that zoom is insane. Lovely Motogoro in it. And I think these are both circa sort of 25 cm at minute. So, you know, I should imagine by the time we're done, at bare minimum, we'll be hitting sort of 35 to 40. We might even go beyond that. So let's wait and see. But like I say, they're all getting dumped in the 3.5K pond now with the shower on as well. So that there'll be no old barred on what we're going to do with them. So yeah, I'm excited for them too. And then here's one that I've had tucked away for quite a little while. This Skinner in a Chiba from Coda, which I think is an absolute weapon of a fish. This is from his lineage with a 96 centimeter female parent, but the pattern on that is just insane, like a jigsaw puzzle coming together. Super body line on it as well. Really, really, and the colour of them, the richness to that pigmentation, that red line he's got running through it, it's just out of this world. So, yeah, expect there to be some competition for that as well. And we went and found an absolute, Chris dug this up out of one at Ponds, an absolute rocket of an Issa Showa. I think there might even end up being a fight for this one. That is absolutely mega. Body on it, pattern, skin, it just ticking absolutely every box, that thing. Stunning. Really stunning thing. I think, if I might be wrong, that's got a starting bid of like 100 quid on it, which yeah, I don't think it'll stay much near that, but let's wait and see. But that is an epic piece. You know, get some more size on that, and away we go. That is one we did pull out of one of the earlier selections, and it's I'd say been conditioning up, but wow. Even surprised me with how much it's come on, to be honest with you. Epic piece. Really, really nice. And then, yeah, sort of working up. Got a few bigger ones as well. Sanzai Hiyotsori from Marseille. That's from one of the batches last year that we featured. Mega female. Now Sanzai, great pattern on it. Really, really epic quality to that fish. Can't remember exact sizes, but she's a good lump now. Held up really well too. And then, yeah, through to Danichi. Got to stick a Danichi line. This thing's pretty epic. Male Nisai shoulder there. Lovely body line to it. Incredible Sumi quality. Just a lovely, lovely flow. You can really see it more even when you look at it on the picture, to be honest. Really great piece. And that Danichi stuff, male, female, they just don't discriminate. You know, the size and stuff they can pack on is incredible. And quality of that's top draw. Comes with the original breeder's certificate as well, which is a nice touch. And then, yeah, we've really gone for it with this one. One of the bigger fish kicking around. Thought it's about time it found a new home now. Taniguchi Sankey. Absolutely, the Sumi placement on that is to die for. I've had this fish since Tosai. Grew it in Japan a year. It's been at KW for a couple of years, and yeah, wow. Absolutely mega. Skin quite. I love a Taniguchi Sankey. The top draw. But yeah, this one, to be honest, we're just in need now of a bit more TLC than it's had, in all fairness. Certainly some more body to be extracted from that one, but it's been in some pretty competitive environments, moved around a little bit as I've been looking for homes. So yeah, given the right care, that's really gonna shoot on. But yeah, looking forward to it. Got some really nice fish, and then probably the last one I'll show you, because absolute soft spot for these. And Shirley watching, I know she's pretty obsessed with a good Asagi. Mega fish. Really top. Tanaka, I think that's from. Lovely Benny developing in it already. Nice, clean. You can see the Benny coming up underneath. Look, great potential on that one. So yeah, and then next week's lots again. Like I say, I've gone for it even more. Happy days. Let's keep farming them out. So Yes, please join us Wednesday, 6:30. What I will say is, given obviously what happened with the auction, the first one, we seem to have that big lag coming from YouTube. So I would encourage you, if you can, to join in on Facebook and bid on Facebook if you can, still while we're looking for other solutions to all this. So that would be grand. It would definitely help us out if you could do that. So we'll hang it on a little bit more, but it was a bit of a lag that was really coming through from there. So yeah, try Facebook if you can for the bidding. And then I've just seen here, I've just had Crafty asking me to bring that achiever up again. Dangerous if I do that, mate. I'm gonna have you hooked in. Let's have a look. It is pretty mega. Really, really like that. Say this 96 cm pairing that he's got is just one of the best achievers I've ever seen. And yeah, this pigmentation on them is immense. And to be fair, that's still in quite warm water. So as that cools off a bit more, the sort of redness of the pigment will come through a little bit more as well. So yeah, mega fish. Be a nice one for that new pond, Crafty, when you're done. So yeah, that's that one. I've got a couple of bits to sort of topics I just want to cover a little bit. And one, I'm not going to call it a rant, that's for sure. But obviously, when I started all of this work on YouTube, it was a very conscious decision because I felt like I wanted to share my experience, where I've sort of got to in all this, and my style of koi keeping, because I've spent, let's not forget, 20 years now doing this commercially. Really, I've been involved in it commercially from day one. I've been in a retail shop where I've spent years serving people who started with the very first pond, needed the hand holding to get through it. At that very same shop, I have sold tropical fish, marine fish, cold water fancies. I've had people who have kept fish, the very first fish tank, keeping a few guppies, you name it, with one thing at all times, wanting those people to succeed, because I've always understood in order for the hobby to succeed, they need the right information, they need the hand holding, they don't need ripping off, because all this just accumulates. One, from a business perspective, you rip people off, all you do is just burn through people, and it's a constant cycle. My whole sort of mentality towards it is building relationships and helping people. So hopefully in the end, you kind of get rewarded with loyalty. So, and that was my foundation, my growing up, my learning around all this. It's been my dad's core values in it, which obviously I've been around when I met Food Joe from a young age, all similar core values there around experiences and looking after people and nursing them in the hobby. And it's something I just believe so much about. But obviously when I left the sort of public domain, I've got more into, I was building koi growers first of all, because following my own dreams, wanting to build a business selling high-end koi. To be honest, that was my dream, because the top end of koi has always fascinated me. I wanted to learn how to raise them and pick them as tosai. It's always blown my mind that they're fascinating. And so I set koi growers. I can't remember when it was. I think I was about 18. It was my first attempt up at the KW facility selling high-end fish. And that was a mega learning experience for me, because I completely fucked it up over 2 years. There's no ways about that. It was, my lack of business experience showing for one, but I very quickly learned as well, in that high-end business, the actual model of it was going to be impossible. It's almost impossible to actually grow a business out of it, a company, because there's just not the demand there. There's not the sales. It's quite difficult with the customers and their demands and sort of the buying patterns and everything that goes off. And I, to be honest, it was really quite devastating for me, because I'd had this dream in my head for such a long time already. And then for the reality of it to not kind of be that, getting people to understand and see what I was seeing in fish, because I needed to do that in order to sell them, because I'm not a person who will pick superficial fish, as I call them. And when I say this is the fish led by pattern and ticking all those boxes over real quality and long-term potential and longevity. Because with high-end fish, I think that's important. When you're spending big money on a fish, you don't just want it to be good for 2 or 3 years and get rid of it. You want it to be good for 10 years, because that to me is getting value for money. And then I realized I become quite passionate about actually trying to find the real gems in amongst all this, that aren't actually costing thousands, trying to beat the breeder, as I call it. That's the term me and Chris use between us all the time. It's the game of trying to beat the breeder, because I then quickly realized, you know, they're quite blinkered in what they're looking at times, and they do miss stuff. So, and then, you know, the sort of whole thing of trying to get people to see what I'm seeing in them young fish and benefit from that as well. Because, again, I've watched people over the years, people close to me and all that, get completely destroyed by seeing, getting them into certain circles of hobbyists where everything is so negative, so downbeat, where it becomes almost impossible to enjoy the hobby, because you can't find fish that meet your budget or your expectations. And it's where these expectations come from. It's just ludicrous stuff where you end up in a funnel being, you know, too over particular, not really learning what you need to learn, just learning all these all bullshit really that gets fed into you from the koi side. And I sort of did my time with that, obviously, koi growth thing, and then I got my head down building Koi Wholesale and sort of vanished for a little bit and been completely obsessed with doing that. You know, it takes a lot to get a business off the ground and build it up. So went away, and in all that time, don't get me wrong, still learning, completely going on, you know, learning about the hobby. That thing never stops for me, constantly learning from the people I respect and I want to learn from. You know, you spend time with the likes of Jasper at EA, you know, wow. You learn stuff, don't get me wrong, not really relevant, but you can pick snippets up when you learn, you can learn how to interpret that information and use it in the right way without becoming too obsessed. Obviously, the breeders in Japan, you never stop, and just soaking up what's around me. You know, even though I've been away, I still listen to what my customers are telling me about what their customers are doing, and understanding the trends and what's going on in the hobby, and sort of looking at everything from afar, because it's important. So, and obviously I've seen the trends then come in with dry goods, everything that comes into it and goes on, and all the rest. And that fascinates me, because my whole brand, as you'll be aware, my whole attitude towards this is koi keeping is a very simplistic one. And this is what sort of motivated me towards all this in the end, because I thought I can't sit back anymore. Having seen some of the information that's banded around, some of the stuff I'm learning from seeing dealers' information, where I'm just thinking people are blatantly being misled, ripped off, all the rest just for commercial gain and getting fed bullshit into their ears. And I guess they're trapped in these circles where they're not enjoying it. It's all becoming too much. There's just a guy recently who, you know, very well-known hobbyist out there. I know he's watching. He'll know what I'm talking about. Was pretty much out of the hobby, and it's a serious loss to the hobby when people leave. And all I think it boiled down to with him was just, again, maybe the people, the shit that was getting fed in, just stopped enjoying it properly. And you know, thankfully with a bit of talking, we managed to bring him around and get him back in and get him enjoying it again, because again, it all become too much. The fish, and obviously when people are spending big money and shit's not panning out right, because the real quality of the fish isn't there in the first place, it is depressing. It's really depressing. And again, I'm a mega thing for it. So that was the plan. We're wanting to start all this, because I understand the position I'm in. I have an absolutely zero commercial motivation for doing this. You know, yes, it helps the reputation, the sort of brand awareness of my company, but I don't have any commercial ties to anybody. And I think that was important, because my advice is not tainted by anything other than my own experiences and beliefs from over 20 years of doing this at a pretty serious level. Koi Talk magazine behind me, I mean, my God, that was just driven by, I think, people needed a magazine. They needed that information out there. They needed some credibility, because all that was being left was people looking around on Google, because all the professionals in the industry are busy doing their own thing, and there's no proper platform that can be trusted or has any credibility. Koi Talk as a venture, to be honest with you, commercial, it's a complete and utter waste of time. It's so hard to do it. You can see why nobody else has sort of done it before, but I love it. I love that people now love it as well, and people are benefit from it. It's the only driving force behind it, because commercially, quite frankly, I could do without the hassle, because Koi Wholesale's doing well. No need for it really, but I just felt it's needed in order to help the hobby grow. We're at a time where COVID's brought in so much new blood into the hobby as well. And where are these people going? What are they being fed into their ear? All these people that we can keep in the hobby for the next 10 or 20 years. It's absolutely essential, because the hobby needs it, and it needs to grow in order for companies to do well, to reinvest, innovate, create new products, all the rest of it out there. And so that was the drive. It was the driving force for this, and it was the driving force for the magazine as well. But it just seems, and I honestly, it's a little bit tiring that you cannot convince some groups, out there. There's so much of this information kicking around that, in all honesty, I wish some people just won't bother to tune in, being frank about it. If it's that much of a problem, actually hearing the truth from somebody who has no motivations in the slightest. When I talk about Hikari koi food, I get fuck all from Hikari. The fact that some of these guys advertise in the magazine is completely irrelevant, because their money that comes into the magazine. If you saw what we charge for an advert, trust me, it's not an issue if them guys decide to bugger off. We'd just fill the pages with something else. The magazine is set up and based on it surviving, based on what my loyal subscribers pay every month for the mag. So zero motivations or ties to anybody, and that's it. So to be fair, and what's inspired the rant, when you hear some of the stuff around, i.e. my talk on filters at the weekend, where I had to actually rewatch the video a couple of times, because I wondered what I'd actually said in particular. Because, like I say, my big motivation in all this as well, although the high-end stuff does fascinate me personally, I've probably got to a point where the high-end fish, it's more about, that's become my enjoyment and almost hobby. When a few sell and do all the rest, it's great, but that's me enjoying myself. My real heart and passion, and the reason for this channel, lies with the masses, not the few, with the masses. And it's you guys out there, the diehards, all the rest of it, just wanting to do your absolute best regardless of your budget. That's what my content, and that is who this is mainly created for. I try and be, fit it all in as much as possible, because it's all encompassing. To be honest, I am for everybody, and I can help everybody at all levels. But for me, when I know stuff can be done so simplistically, I cannot stand it. So the big sort of thing around this was with the drum filters, to be honest. And what it has inspired is that I'm actually going to create, Rob, my video guy's been in today, we're going to create a quick series of videos around filtration from the ground up. So looking at all the different mechanisms, all the different types of filtration, all the different types of mechanical, biological, some of the different methodology behind it. Because I think a lot of this has been lost these days. Actually learning how a filter works and the methodology about how you would, because nobody builds a filter anymore. You wind back to when I started, so many people were built, and filters and everything. There were so many calculations on in order to get it right. And like I said, I get a lot of feedback from people, your modern days. Don't get me wrong, drums have been, and this is what all this is really tailored around, but drums are a great bit of kit in the right purpose and being set properly. So the video, you've probably seen it on Sunday, because I feel like I need to sort of clarify this, because it's niggling me a little bit. I was honestly talking about my routines for looking after those drums. Those drums are now, I think, about 6 years old overall. So over those 6 years, winding back 6 years, I had no experience with drums. I never had one. I was sold them on the premise of they were big enough for that pond, and they handled the flow rates and everything else that I needed them to do. And when I look around today, this is still how drums are sold. I've been having a look this afternoon. Drums are sold on the basis of flow rates from what I can see mainly, one, and I like this because I say one of the things I have reiterated again from my experience, if you're going down the drum route, for me, it's got to be the best ones, because I've seen mass reliability issues in a lot of models, that being the ones that I've actually got. You know, the ones I've got, reliability is the amount of money I have spent replacing motors, float switches and cleaning pumps is an absolute joke. And it's still ongoing issues. And until I can find a proper fix for it, it's probably going to carry on. However, I do know, and again, from talking to people, the ORs I've known ORs are products for years. The quality level is just different. Reliability is different. I see how it's built is different as well. The removable parts, the removable screens, they've got spare parts as well. I know with ORs in 20 years' time, spare parts will be available for their drums. The company's absolutely huge. I run all ORs of pumps, you know, it's just how they are. Great company. And then Profi Drum as well. Like I said, I've had a massive insight into Profi Drum. I've seen them at Absolute Koi for years. The same ones running well. And now the Profi Drum UK, like I said, I'm quite good friends with the guy behind the manufacturer, and had a massive insight into what's needed to actually make a drum of a standard and a reliable, high quality standard as well. So seeing that, no one will change my mind that it's realistically, if you're doing it, you've got to go for, if you want long-term security, you've got to go for one of these best and better models, to be honest. With that in mind, it sort of changes the way you look at things, because these things are expensive. They're mighty expensive. And I can't change my experiences. I was sold these. I didn't know a lot about them back then. I was sold them based on that. What I've come to learn is, yes, they're not fit for purpose. I'm fully aware that they're not fit for purpose. And it's actually what I said in my video at the weekend. They're not fit for it because, yeah, they handle the flow rate, but they cannot. And this is it. You know, I've probably exposed something that won't happen in 99% of other cases, because none of you guys watching this, you know, one of the guys sort of questioning it, telling me that it's user error, and getting to the end of it that I'm stubborn. Love that one. There'll be some t-shirts coming with that soon for sure. You know, you're comparing, you know, obviously running a drum filter, keeping 12 fish in just under 3,000 gallons, feeding 700 grams a day. But nobody's out there saying that's the maximum that you can do. I have got that drum filter running, keeping 500 fish in there, feeding a couple of kilos a day, plus in some cases, heel saws at 40 centimetre, keeping 120 of them in there, feeding 2.8 kilos a day. But it's not out there. Then I think, when in my mind, it's absolute bullshit that information isn't out there, because I've found it's a problem with them. You know, the constant blocking of the nozzles because of the snails growing. Yes, it can be easily fixed. You can fit a header tank and do all this. Unfortunately, that doesn't tie into my old mantra of simplicity. Not when people are being sold them with the external pumps, and not really mentioning that should ideally be the case. You know, they're designed to feed. It did make my piss boil, yes. They're designed to feed from the clean side of the drum. That's how they've been built. So, you know, it's all this extra thing. It's not something I can do. The retrofit of doing that is impossible. So I've got this issue where the nozzles are blocking up every week. And then to also be questioned that the cleaning of the biofilm, you know, I mentioned Jasper. Yeah, I had the most fascinating chat with that guy about biofilm, and nobody will tell you more about biofilm than Jasper at EA. The guy's just insane with it. And it's when we was actually talking about sieves. So, you know, he's talking about, you know, using 150 micron screen in a sieve, and then how much cleaning that would need because of biofilm buildup, and how I would actually have to keep cleaning it to keep the biofilm at bay. And that's because in these commercial scenarios, I'm got biofilm developing at a massive rate. I'm at 25 degrees and above sometimes. It's very optimal. Massively feeding it because of the amount of food that's going in, and the pond's performing. KH is there, everything's there for this to absolutely just fly and thrive. And that's exactly what's happening. So yeah, a screen that's such a low micron count is going to, the biofilm build up on it from week to week is incredible. Don't have to acid it every week, but we just found that the jet washing it and the nozzles have to be clean because of the blocking up. If we don't, the whole thing just falls apart. So, and yeah, there we go. The drum isn't big enough for the pond. We know that, but it was a retrofit job. I had that space and I was told they would be all right. As if you're looking online now, looking at a drum filter, most sites will just tell you optimum flow rates from and what flow rates can be handled. I would say in most cases, looking at it, it's probably only with clean water, because if it was dirty water, seeing how they performed, there's no way a lot of them would handle them flow rates. In all credit to Profi Drum, having checked out their website earlier, there is actually I've got some notes, but there is some text on there that you can actually adjust the cleaning cycles on it, how long it spins for, all the rest, to adapt for feeding levels. Straight away there, different gravy, well said. And the fact that you can do that is really, really important. But then, I just look at all this and think the hassle I'm having with that, and then for me, it's got to really stack up in what's to be gained from it. And don't get me wrong, I am looking at the minute with two new fish house builds coming up, thinking, what do I put on? Because I am aware with the feeding levels that I have, there's not really many other filtration systems that can probably do what the drum's doing mechanically for me. But then that's what leads in, and that is only at them kind of feeding levels and stocking levels I'm talking about commercially. When I look at it and downscale it in my head, a hobbyist level, all I see is that's not an essential piece of equipment. And when I'm hearing language around the fact that koi keepers having it banged into them, which as was commented on the video, in certain circles and areas, almost being made to sound like it would be impossible to keep koi unless you've got a drum, blah, 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 and all this, that really does make me piss boil, because it's just not true. In that same video, you can see ponds there that I'm running with a brush chamber and a fluid bed. And yes, that's more maintenance. You have to manually maintain it. And yes, the water clarity while I'm feeding super heavy is not the best. It's not perfect in the drum filter ponds. And the results are still amazing because the knowledge is there and the fish are still looked after. It's not about having all the best tools all the time. You've got to know what you're doing with them and what you've got. And even when you haven't got all that, if you've got the right knowledge, you can still max it out. I look to the people I respect the most in this job, the breeders, and see how they're doing it. And my God, the simplicity there is just, I'm in awe of it. But they're dealing with knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation. So yes, don't get me wrong. And it all depends on circumstances as well. Very aware of this. Circumstances. If you can afford a drum, you want an easy life, you're not really putting them under a lot of pressure, you get a good one, they're probably not going to be a hassle and absolutely happy days for you. But I don't like the fact that in some areas people are made to feel, or the knowledge around is that it's the only way to do it, because it's not the only way to do it. And the bit that really, really gets me then is what really is best to do. So just a little bit of research, because I'm completely out of touch with what drums are really selling for these days in anything in the retail market. So banding around, I thought I'd have a look at what a standard combi drum system, and they do really get me them ones, to be honest with you, actually costs today. So this was not top branded. This was a half decent brand, but not the most expensive. And not for the biggest of ponds either. So it's not a massive drum on it, one that wouldn't cope with one of my ponds for sure. And here's what I mean about making decisions and compromises. So this particular unit was, if I just find my notes properly, £4,279.99. And that filter could hold up to 225 litres of media biologically. Not a lot. You ain't doing a lot with 225 litres of media there, to be honest with you. So in comparison, if you're doing that, so let's just say if that's the amount you're spending on filtration for your pond, is it the best decision? So bearing in mind on whatever the circumstances are here, what you can also get for the same money and actually have a bit of change. Again, just looking online, seeing what people are selling at from on the same dealer's website, I could buy 3 Nexus 320s for £4,035. So I've got a little bit of change left over there. That would give me a combined capacity of potential for 900 litres of media, and there's 3 individual mechanical filters there. And the Nexus Easies are a very, very efficient mechanical filter. Sometimes I believe used wrongly, Sometimes people overestimate what they're actually capable of doing. But to think I could have that, that's an absolute no-brainer for me. I'm taking the 3 Nexuses. Admittedly, you're going to have, there's other implications to that, because you're going to need more pumps, all the rest of it. But for me, absolute no-brainer. I mean, no doubt people tend to run skimmers. It's all the rage. So, you know, even with the drum system, there's going to be a secondary pump in there, which is probably going to run off of a skimmer line. So you could run a 4-inch skimmer fed into a Nexus and back round. There's one of them. So you're probably only 3 Nexuses, 1 additional pump in all that, some extra air pumps, but you're going to have all that extraction, all that extra biological capacity. Bearing in mind the biological media will act part mechanical for the finer particle. I mean, down to 1 micron is what a biofilm will filter. So it beats any drum filter. And when you've got enough of it, it'll perform. That is the bit for me that I've got to get through. If we're looking at this on a budget, which most people are working on a budget, you know, how can you compare? So that one of those Nexus 320s still delivers more biologically, and you've got the mechanical side. So you could probably even throw a sieve in, I don't know, something else like that along the lines, an absolute fraction of the cost. And the performance is going to be great. I mean, bearing in mind my most basic systems up at Koi Wholesale, I've been running 400-gallon tanks that run off of an Aquamax Eco 6, it might even be 4,000s with them, 4,000 or 6,000, I'm not sure, up to my homemade trickle towers, because that's going to be one of the next ones that I come on to. The trickle tower, and that has 2 sheets of foam in the top, mechanically filtered, and then 70 kilos of pumice stone in it. And in those tanks, during quarantine, I keep anything up to about 350, 12 to 15 centimetre tosi. And they're fed as well. They have to be fed. And people have been amazed for years at how them systems actually keep. So this is the whole point I have to get across and want to get across, is to show how it can be done. How you then choose to do it is up to you. If you've got the budget to go and stick that drum on and everything you want, absolutely happy days, nothing wrong with that. But I won't have it said that drums are completely maintenance free, hassle free, or the only way to go, because that is complete and utter BS. That's my point with that one, you know, is that there's always different ways, and it's depending what you want from it. You can get the Nexus with an auto kit now. I know in my case, you know, water clarity is always the last thing on my mind, but I know how to achieve superb water clarity when I want to. With those tower systems, the clarity is always decent anyway. In my Nexus ponds, it's always decent. Really good, in fact, when I want it to be, even when fish are fed. I've got an easy pod pond running, a 1,200-gallon pond with an easy pod that's gravity fed, that keeps anywhere, at any point, around 50 to 60 Nisai in it that are fed, and the water keeps superb. Absolutely superb. People always pass comment that they think it's a big filter system running. It's a little easy pod running. You know, we just know what we're doing with it, getting the setup right and all the rest of it. And even now, it doesn't matter which, good point, Phil. You know, we didn't have them and we managed. But I'm not saying that they're a bad thing. It just depends on the circumstances and where you're at. And the language I don't like is when it's made to feel like it's the only way to do. Like some people can get sucked into believing you must have RO to grow big fish, and you must have 20 backy showers on your pond, and just all this bollocks that's commercially there trying to extract money out of people that doesn't need to be spent, and when it can be done simplistically. Fact of the matter is, in my case, yes, they're not right, but them drums cause me a load of hassle at my fish house. The ones in the fish house behind it with rush chambers cause me no hassle. Don't get me wrong, could be more efficient, but they cause me absolutely no hassle. That's Ian there. What's Ian saying? Drums are definitely not maintenance free. I had a constant washing issue while I was on holiday this year. I have to modify my system. This is all the things. And I will say it because I'm not commercially motivated into selling them. And good dealers will also lay all your options out on the table. But anyway, that's what the point of the video that we're going to be doing, or the video series it's going to be end up doing, looking at all the mechanical, biological options, different techniques. So it doesn't matter what your budget's at, you can work out what is best for you. And I'll reiterate it again, you know, my new fish houses, I really am scratching my head at the minute, deciding what is the best route for me to take, given what I want to do, because I know it's going to be hard to replicate what the drum's doing in the constant waste removal from the water, given the sheer amount of mechanical debris I have to process. You guys don't have this in most of the cases. You know, just imagine feeding nearly 3 kilos a day into a 3,500 gallon pond. What shit that would actually produce that needs to be filtered. And then in that case, I'm having that same issue then. So I've got to look and go, Christ. So if I'm looking at a drum filter, I need a big one, a really big one. And then I'm looking at the cost of them myself and going, holy shit. So one fish house, if I think I'm going to put these new 4 ponds I'm building on a drum filter, I'm looking at that thinking the same as that. Well, that one drum would probably buy me 3, 4 Nexuses, pumps, UVs, all the rest of it. And for what gain? Can I replicate that process of removing waste from the water? Let me tell you how the breeders do it, because it's the same concept. Yes, it's hanging around a bit longer, but breeders' ponds in Japan are built in a way where it goes to a standpipe. So the bottom drain, the actual bottom drain in the bottom pond goes straight to a standpipe that's built at pond level like that. And if the pond's 2 meters deep, it's a 2 meter standpipe. Every day they go in, pull that. So it's a massive velocity on the pull, and it completely purges the drain of all the sediment for that 24-hour period. The main biological filter is fed by a side drain. So yes, some waste gets in, but not a lot. The settlement chambers, and then it's generally matting that is used after that, that's heavily aerated. There's still, to my knowing, only 2 breeders in Japan doing it. Because again, looking at them, practicalities of water levels, even just with breeders, how they run the systems, it's really quite tough to get that unless they're pump feeding one, to be honest. But possible. And again, in their scenario with the feeding and the stocking commercially, it does make sense if it can be put in and it's cost effective. But for me, looking at this, I can't see it being cost effective, to be honest with you. And then knowing that there's an option out there to have a sieve, if I can incorporate it in the right way by using techniques and knowing how the system needs to work, incorporate the sieve and get one made with the 150 micron screen, I don't need to be filtering any lower than 150 microns, because then we're obsessing. The obsession just becomes about the water clarity. And it's important, but there's only so much you need to see. It only needs to be so clear. This obsession of having 0 particles in your water is one that truly does drive me crazy, because so many other sacrifices are made. It's not the most important thing in koi keeping. Especially when, you know, they're shitting every day. There's always going to be something in the water. So it's an unrealistic expectation to expect it to be any other way, to be honest with you. So that's my rant on that. And it's just perspective. Like I say, everyone's circumstances are different, and it really does depend what you want from it. Some people enjoy the maintenance side of it. You know, going out and flushing the filters is an enjoyable part for them. I'm not going to lie, I actually find something quite therapeutic about flushing the Nexus. I don't know what it is. Twisted Koi Wadi in his standpipes. I mean, there we go. Don't get me wrong. The guy completely lost it towards the end, but I think I can see a little bit where he was sort of going, and that's going to get people going. Me backing Wadi up on his rants that he got on, but he's probably looking at it thinking the hobby lost its way a little bit. All this over complication and commercialism. How far does it want to go? But yeah, that's that one. And then funnily enough, that same sort of thread picked up on something to do with flow rates over showers and trickle towers, because obviously I mentioned about Telford Koi Pond. What's he saying? I chose a drum system to allow me to take more holidays without detrimental impacting the water quality and the koi, but still make sure someone checks on daily. I'm like, yeah, absolutely fine. To say if that's working for you, absolutely superb, and if you can afford it, great. I am skeptical of the cheaper systems for sure, because I've seen myself, the ones I've got were not market leaders. There's a lot of compromises that have been pointed out to me in the build quality, and I believe that's why now I'm at a point where I'm changing motors continuously and cleaning. And to be fair, that pisses me off that every time I order new floats, they're a different style every time they come, which tells me the fact of the company's clearly not happy with them or got a good one. It's mind-boggling. So, but anyway, yeah, back to the flow rates, the sort of trickle towers. Yeah, So it was a thing that it was advice given. Another guy on YouTube had said, the flow rate he was running over his shower wasn't substantial enough. It needs to be 3 times that, all the rest of it. Again, this is not always as straightforward. I can say one headline thing and it gets sort of skewed out. But I think the term trickle tower and shower has become interchangeable, but they're 2 different things. Trickle towers have been in koi keeping and fish keeping for donkey's years. Showers came about at Momotaro time. It was really Mike Snadden that introduced from Momotaro, who created the shower concept of using massive flow rates over these showers, over the genuine backy house media, and whatever claims it is they made that it does and all the rest of it, and creating results with this high turnover over in the pond system and high flow rate over the shower, getting the result, which has great benefits for, degassing, oxygenation, and all the rest of it. That doesn't then mean that trickle towers, that same concept, has still been there, where slow flow rates are run over systems, and it's the sort of wet dry effect it used to be called, that creates the benefit, gets the sort of bacterial growth and groups that it got. So again, if you're looking at this, I don't want people being put off thinking, my God, I want some extra filtration. I've got a good pond, but I've got to be pumping 20, 30,000 litres an hour over it in order to get any results. I've already said, I've got over 20 ponds running on this same system. In fact, it's probably more than that. With the quarantine houses as they we're probably getting on for over 40 ponds running on the same system that I would call them trickle towers. Them homemade systems I've got are trickle towers, not shower filters. The trickle towers, they've got around 6,000 litre an average flow rate running on them. So it's only small. And just again, to strip it right back to basics, if the media is wet and got a constant wet flow over it, it's performing, it's doing something. Especially if it's an add-on filter, if it's just an additional to your main system, the flow rate is completely irrelevant. Just an add-on. If the media is wet and it's actually passing over it, it's doing its job. Bacteria is going to be growing and doing it. The thing where sort of showers came in a bit more, there was no pre-filtration to it, and this is what I pass comment on here. You're talking about flow rates. Is the water pre-filtered or not? So in the case of my showers, I knew I'd be pumping straight out the bottom of the pond, which is going to be relatively dirty water coming over, although not the worst, like a bottom drain. And at that point, I need the heavy flow as well to be able to sort of break that waste down a little bit so it doesn't form heavy sludge on the media, which would have been a massive problem. If the particles are broken down enough, they'll be able to then be broken down further by the biological action of it, or ultimately knocked off by the heavy flow rate, put back into recirculation for the rest of the system to get next time round, whatever it is. If you've got an additional above pond filter that is just literally an add-on that you're pumping after your main system, so it's relatively clean water, honest to God, the flow rate doesn't matter. So long as that's getting some water over it, it's going to perform, it's going to help you, it's going to do something. So don't be put off with that. You don't need big juice. If you're running it shower type, that's when your flow rates have got to come in. But trickle filters have been around for decades. They're efficient, they work, they don't need masses of water running over them. They just need to be wet and have an half decent media in there. So I think it's probably important. Again, I'll touch on this on the videos we're doing, to separate them as 2 completely different types of filters to understand what's needed to do it. And yet, talking of trickle filters, you wouldn't have typically been pumping, dirty water over them. That's not a concept that was ever really spoken about. It would have been all sort of pre-filtered water going over it already. So, and even with showers, to be honest with you, you'll get some results. The same concept does apply. If the media is still getting wet, it's still doing something. It's just you get more benefits from a shower when you're pumping the heavy flow rates. That's when the degassing, oxygenation effect, all the rest comes in. But again, even we talk about oxygenation, that isn't actually performing as an oxygenation filter, adding oxygen to the water, if the airflow is not designed properly. So in the case of my trickle towers, because they're closed systems, they're not getting any airflow. Therefore, they are producing zero oxygen. They're just consuming oxygen like a normal biological filter would do. If I add the airflow to it, quite easy, take the lid off, have something at the bottom where you can get the air in, out, as simple as that. straight away it's a game changer. And that's a completely different system and completely different action at that point as well. So, yeah, just to see Sean there, can we get Jasper on? I'm always trying to pin Jasper down, to be honest with you. He's a busy guy, and I think it'd be more one for us to go and capture on camera, because that would be a super, super long Q&A if I got him on. Honestly, fascinating conversations at time, but again, a lot of it theoretical that they're working on, and you have to figure out how that's going to apply in real world situations. So yeah, sorry I've not obviously answered many questions there, but that's something, it really sort of just touched me a bit, and you know, got me thinking. The whole purpose, again, coming back to it, why I do this, it's to just share that unbiased. I'm biased towards my own beliefs and opinions from the experiences that I've had, but I'm certainly not incentivized or motivated in any way by any company, product, or anything like that. I go with what I see. You know, we talk about fish food as well, Saki Akari being one. Yes, and I'm not going to put my name to anything else, because I'm not just going to say something I don't believe in. Yes, that's a big decision I made. It's a big investment for my company that I'm making in that food, because I've got my head around it, you know, in the right way. When I did that video on it, the whole price per kilo thing, again, it pricked a few up, but that was only looking at one way of looking at it. You know, I've still not done the work, and it's going to be hard to do the work because of time constraints to actually work out how that is comparing in kilos fed to kilos gained, because that's when we understand the true value of it. I can see it visually compared with other foods, because over the past 2 years of being solely on it, I've seen growth that has just blown my mind, and it is part of the performance and overall results that I'm getting at the minute. So I was just keen to get that point across, because yeah, on the face value of it, it's expensive. It can become a thing that circulates. Oh, Saki Akari, it's expensive. That it's not. Yeah, it is on the face value of it, but dig deeper, because so many other foods out there are inferior. And that, when I say that, doesn't come from a bias. I have used so many foods over the years and seen them just fall so short. I understand what makes a good food. I see ingredient lists and straight away puts me off it. Like I say, I was quite happy using a relatively what's known as a cheap branded food for quite a few years, until they started pissing around with the ingredients and decided to go from being fish meal based to poultry meal based. I'm just never going to accept that, because we know it's not best for the fish and it doesn't perform. And straight away I knew something had happened, because after opening a bag, I saw the pellet color had changed and the smell of the food had changed completely. And after feeding it, all of a sudden, all that was happening was, at high levels, the water was just foul, and the level of waste, we just could not process it. It was useless. And there we go. That's on clean out the window. But until that point, I was a massive, massive advocate of it, and I had to go pissing around with it. And that stuff's just wild, and it's mighty frustrating. So that's where we're at. It's where I'm coming from, and hopefully, you know, I know it's valued by a lot, and I know it's having a big impact on a lot of you guys out there. And that's all I wanted from this, from starting off. And I don't want anybody coming into the hobby to be intimidated by these big, scary numbers, prices of products, because it's quite easy. And I know I talk about expensive koi a lot. That happens, unfortunately, because that is a real passion. The high-end fish is a real passion for me. So it does obviously come across at times, but then again, the whole root of the videos that I'm doing is trying to help all you guys understand how you can pick a better fish with the budget you've got, no matter what that budget is. Again, something I'm mega passionate about, and will continue to keep banging that drum, doing the work. The whole male fish thing, I won't shut up about it, because I'm seeing what's happening. You know, unpopular opinion in some circles. So what? I spend a lot of time. I know what's happening out in Japan. I'm on the ground. I'm seeing what's happening with my own eyes, more importantly, and seeing things change right in front. Just because it doesn't filter back here quick enough, what's happening, and then you still, you know, in circles. And this comes from dealers as well. The same old shit and myths being recirculated amongst people. There we go. I just, yeah, it blows my mind at times with that stuff. And again, it's just trying to get a point across that maximizing the budget. You know, I've got a pond of fish at Koi Wholesale at the minute that is really blowing people's minds. You know, at the weekend, and I'm showing people 70 centimeter male sandside that have been raised in a 3,500 gallon pond with 20 or so other fish. It's just wild. People aren't doing that with females. There's always this perspective, and that's just what I'm trying to bring. Yes, that there aren't masses of male fish getting to 80 and 90, but every year there's more and more. But how many fish that are female and that are winning All Japan are getting to 80 and 90? Yes, there's more than the males, but there's still not massive numbers regardless. And even today, I sit flicking through one of my Japanese magazines, and it was quite interesting because the pages as they flick through showed the size categories, female winners, and then the same category size at males. And I guarantee you, if I put those pictures up on here, you would not pick between any of those fish, male or female. You wouldn't pick between them. And they went up to 90 boo in the size class, up to 90 centimeters in the male division as well. All this is happening. It's changing at a rapid pace out there. The males are being valued more and more and more now, because again, breeders are looking at them thinking, for years I've been missing out. We invest more because more of the Asian market's seeing it and buying them, because what they're seeing is the fish are performing almost identically. And the quality is there, these big farms. And then this year you see Sakai, they're advertising male Nisai in the auctions with a starting bid of £1 million yen, which is like 6.5 grand, depending on where the exchange rate's swinging. It's a huge, huge sum of money, and that's going to then start trickling down more and more and more. And I do believe the game will level up eventually as more time is invested in them, as lineages get better and better and better. It's all about the characteristics. All that's happened for years is they've got a male fish, because there's been no commercial market for it, so to speak, it gets sold off cheap. Well, now there is one. All of a sudden, these big breeders going, holy shit, well, if we raise these koi properly, like we have done the females, we show people that they actually perform almost the same, they start buying them. And they start buying for the proper prices. They can compete at the shows now. The male division gets more and more competitive. Winning whatever size, top prize in the male division at the All Japan is still at the absolute highest level you're competing at. So why wouldn't you want to win? And I do believe over the next possibly 10 years, we'll see that eventually just merge together, where they're competing on a level playing field because they can. There'll always be slight differences in because of the gender. We have that across all sort of animals, even as humans. Some things genetically you just can't change, but a lot of it for years has been because they've been the treatment of the male koi has been completely different to the females. Therefore, they've always been seen at a disadvantage, and that is changing rapidly. And you will see it change more and more rapidly. And all that'll happen is, in the end, level out. So for all these years I've been harping on about it, everyone will have missed out on all the bargains that are there to be had. And it's a mindset thing. The up and coming Dainichi Toyota auction, there's a male Kohaku in there that I know is going to go crazy. I'm going to be in for bidding it, because straight away I can see its mass koi show potential. It's just superb. I know it can grow. It's going to compete for years. The quality's there. The longevity of the quality's there. So, why not? And again, that is more of a sort of problem amongst high-end keepers. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them are already set that their ponds are, heavily entrenched in female. They don't want to risk putting the male in. That's all good, but maybe it's worth looking at as that collection evolves. But for me, this message is more for the new people coming in and then sort of growing and progressing in the hobby to make these decisions now, so they don't become entrenched in a scenario where it's all female. So they've got to stick all female. There you go. It's crazy. So yeah, they're the things that we'll keep on about. I just realised an hour has gone there with me ranting and rambling on. But anyway, that's it's been a nice sort of therapy session. So thanks there for all tuning in and listening to that bit. So I'm going to sort of stay off on the questions. I'm going to do just look at a few of the fish coming up. We'll log the questions up and get worked through them. That's actually an interesting one. I'm just seeing there. Sorry, I'm having a quick read through from Ian. Do you ever set a pond aside for trial of other foods? Well, obviously, given what I've sort of said, Ian, I have from the past tried most of the foods that are still on the market today. Excuse me, my throat's dried up with all that rambling. Yeah, really, I've tried most of them. And now the issue for me is knowing what they're like versus what I'm using in Saki Akari. There's nothing out there really tempting me enough to want to change it, because I know it's as good as it gets. Yeah, I can't really say a lot. So as I'm looking at it, if I set a pond aside, I'm losing that pond for the year for potentially unknown results that are more than likely going to be inferior to what I would have got. So commercially, that's not something at the minute. There's nothing out there tempting enough. There's nobody coming forward, you know, saying, I believe in this so much. You try this, it'll revolutionize it. You'll get rid of that stuff in no time. Nobody kicking my door down saying that. So yeah, as far as I see it, that's not something that is tempting for me in the slightest. If anything does come knocking at my door like that, I'll be absolutely sure to give it a try. But as it stands, I know everything out there I've pretty much used at some point. And yeah, can only say I've been massively underwhelmed, to be fair. So that's sort of where I'm at with that one. And so we'll do a few questions while we're on. What's your thoughts on homemade filter setups? Absolutely go for it. If you can do it, understand the concepts, and you're happy. Certainly if you're on a budget, you can make your money. I mean, that's what I was looking at, to be honest with you. When I saw the price of that combi system at £4,279, I'm thinking, holy shit, I don't know what pond that's actually going to filter, but I feel like through knowledge and knowing what I'm doing, I could build an incredible system from the ground up for that, completely done and running for that kind of price. Never mind what that's just costing for one filter that's not really going to get you far with 200 litres of biological media in it. Just mind-blowing. So, yeah, I mean, all my systems, well, I'll say all, the ones you'll have seen on the video with the brush chambers, they're homemade systems. The trickle filters are homemade systems. Understand the concept, do it. Understand that obviously, yeah, in using foam's a super efficient mechanical filter. It really is. It just takes a lot of work. It is a bit of a pain in the arse. For me, that was fine, because if I'm being honest, the replacement, they replaced Easy Pods that were pump fed. And although the cleaning cycle of Easy Pods itself, when the water's there and you filled it up, was great, what we actually found was the time cost waiting for them to refill, boiling it, draining it off, cleaning it round, doing it again was massive. And now compared to lifting our systems off, jet washing the foam down, putting it back on, for us there, the time cost saving was massive. And I get that's not what people want to be doing, or most people don't want to be doing on a weekend or whatever it is. And yes, it's not the most efficient, but it's mighty good. It produces great clarity that people are talking about. So yeah, nothing against homemade systems. If you know what you're doing, go for it. So, right, let's just end on... sorry, I've just seen another one that's caught my attention. With the cost of living, if you could only afford one, would you heat through the summer or feed Saki Akari through the summer? Wow. Ooh, that's a good one, that, Dan. Logically, it would say if you can't do both, the heat would be more beneficial, and sort of compromising on the food a little bit. Because even if you've got Saki Akari, but you've not got the temperatures, you're not going to get the best results. So the heat is so imperative to get in, you know, the best results growth-wise, that, yeah, absolutely. I'd say if you had to be one or the other, go with the heat and buy the next best foods you could afford. If I was going to say anything on that one from my past experiences, I did like Takazumi. It seemed a pretty decent food, to be honest with you. And I have had decent results with EA growth as well. The only thing that sort of stopped me progressing with EA growth commercially was it's only manufacturing a great big 6mm pellet. And most of what I raise is Tosai, where I'm feeding a 2 to 2.5mm pellet with Saki small. So for me, it was sort of like a bit of a non-starter because I couldn't use it site-wide. And then there wasn't other foods in the range as well, such as the colour foods and bits and bobs that I could use to mix in. So it didn't give me everything I needed, but it was a pretty impressive growth food, to be fair. So I hope that answers that one. So, right, a little bit of Koi appreciation to finish off, guys. Let's see what we've got. So the Taniguchi event, if you've not done it already, you can look up all the details on the website. All the pictures are on the website as well. Fixed price between $495 and $595. These grow on in Japan until about April, when I'll be out there, assess how they're doing. They'll either then ship home, or if I deem the fish worthy, I will advise it can potentially stay and grow on until October, till the autumn as well, for an additional small cost. And yeah, this at Taniguchi is amazing. So the toe size, again, it does really test your skill, this picking toe size so small. And some little things I'm going to point out here, this isn't so much to do with the fish. I'm looking at the pictures, it's actually the characteristics of the fish I want to share with you. So let's go with this one, because this is a big one that I think shocked a few people, sort of with sumi transformation and stuff. Now, I think this is quite clear to see. This is a really good fish. You can see everything in the body structure in it. Great head, nice body line, everything there ticking all the boxes. And I think the quality of the skin and the pattern's there for all to see. I mean, an amazing 4-step pattern that's well balanced. There's the odor mate, just ticking every box. The bit I want to draw attention to here is the pink skin. Just excuse me. So this pink skin is a common misconception with some, thinking that's red color that's going to come out. This is just the immature skin with this fish. So basically what's going to happen, even as this probably gains another 10 centimeters at most, the Shiroji will thicken, that white skin thickens, and all of a sudden that pink glow is gone. That is not color that's trying to pop through or come anything. It's part of the fish underneath. And like I say, straight away, the next jump in growth and maturity, that thickens, it goes away. Everything there will stretch out slightly, not huge amounts, but it will stretch out slightly. And what you'll get is a completely different looking thing when that sort of pink skin does go away. If I flick around a few, again, you can sort of really see it there, looking in areas in between all the steps of the pattern. Again, remarkable fish, but don't be put off by that. The bit you want to pay attention to is that sashi on the front edge of the beni. That's where you want to study and pay attention to that sat under the skin. But then pink bits ultimately are the white skin. And when you're visually looking at it, be aware that that's going to become a bigger area of white skin as well. So you will get a visual change in the pattern as it moves along. And don't forget as well, you go through a stage, it pulls out, the Shiroji areas grow. And then there's also elements of this in beni actually contracting a little bit at certain parts of it. There's so much movement that goes on. This is why you see these super, super radical changes happen in the toe side. Let's have a look what else we've got here. Cracking little Ginrin shower. This again, where it comes to a pattern element more than anything, you can see all the qualities in that fish. And this whole, if you've had it fed into you about showa needing a kohaku pattern, again, absolute rubbish. What you see here, for me, showa is all about the balance of the three colors. And what you're going to get here when you look at it is you can see the sumi sat on that side where there's no beni. So visually that will come up eventually. We can see there's quite a lot of it and sumi change, and that will visually balance that pattern then as that fish grows. It's just that it's a time process. What you might actually find is as this grows up to jumbo toe side, that underlying sumi you can see will disappear slightly as that Shiroji thickens, for it to then start re-emerging through the white skin as it matures and gets a little bit older. Of course, again, age plays its part massively in sumi development. Then another little tip, ones like these, obviously the breeder's done the pictures. This is a fish not looking its best at the minute for various reasons. One being the picture is overexposed, so it sort of washes everything out a little bit. Little split fin, not to worry about. So there's sort of them elements you've got to look through when you're buying fish off of pictures. You'll get a better view of this looking at the video, the videos on the website when it's in the bowl and understand it. But right there is a fish that's got so much to do. It cannot be written off. And don't get me wrong, I know that's not looking super attractive at the minute. But all I can see all that sumi mid-body where there's no beni, which is going to massively, create a sumi pattern there. Again, like I've just said, adds the balance of the three colors. But if we technically look at the elements of the pattern, that beni is distributed in all the right spots for me, knowing what the sumi can do. Lovely head pattern memoir showing through. Beni quality is nice because it's got good refined Marizomi Kiwa. It's a fish that's going to change a lot. And I know one that probably will be overlooked, but certainly shouldn't be overlooked in the event. If you are watching, you've eyed it up, great choice, because I do believe that one's probably going to pay dividends moving forward. And then you've got, again, ones like this. I mean, wow. To be honest, and again, this Benny, so I've seen Benny like this where it's not even looking 100% at the minute. This is a shower. Absolutely barely any sumi showing through at all. And yeah, the Benny sort of out of condition a little bit at the minute, but I know that's likely to change from what I've seen of these. It's just young. So much sumi to happen, and knowing Taniguchi's shower, it will. So all you're really looking at here is the quality of that skin. White skin superb, body setup's really nice. They've got a cracking big head there. The rest of the body's set well. Motogoro coming out. Not really a lot of sumi to see on the quality, but we know it's going to come. So, you know, if you imagine a nice sumi pattern laid over the top of that, there's a great fish to be had. These are the toe side that are not to be overlooked, because if all goes well with that in this size, say it turns out female looking cracking, instantly you're on at a fish that's likely in the retail market to be £1,500 to £2,000. That's how it is, and that's where it would be valued. So yeah, definitely worth taking the risk. And then obviously if we just go to like Sankey, again with this one, you can see them big heavy blocks of sumi there between the Danza Benny. You know, that's not all likely to stay as one big block of sumi, because it could look like it's too heavy. Most of that's going to fade off again as the white skin thickens, and only parts, you can see a part of it on that side actually that's coming through as thicker sumi. And you're going to have big areas of Shiroji opening up you can't really see at the minute as well. So it's really quite amazing and difficult sometimes to paint the picture. So it's why you've just got to really look around the edges and expect these big changes to come, and understand that they will come. And these fish at 15, 17 cm aren't going to stay looking like that. Likelihood is these are going to hit anywhere, I'd say on average, maybe around 30 centimeters by April at the bare least. Some will be bigger, some will be a bit smaller, but I think average will be around 30 to 35 cm. And yeah, will look completely different fish. This Kohaku again showing it. Highly rate this piece, but again, that pink skin, not relevant. It's not going to be there. It's not Benny sat under the skin. The only bit you want to pay attention to again is where you can see the color slightly thickens. That pink skin gets a little bit thicker where it's sashi on the front of the Benny pattern. So that's what's important. But again, looking at that one, super body, really nice sort of layout on you know, pattern potential. Great fish. And then we move to ones like this again, a bit more vision needed with it. But I mean, wow, this is that typical shower that, again, if you've been taught you need a Kohaku pattern, that's gone clean out the window, this fish. But it shouldn't be, because talking of the balance of all three colors, what you've got here is the same thing as the pink skin, that gray skin, where you're thinking that's all going to be black. No, what's going to happen is this fish will jump up in size. That grey skin will become Shiroji, and then at that point, probably you'll start seeing the true areas of underlying sumi that's going to form the pattern. So, yeah, lots of change to that one, not to be dismissed, because that could end up with that kind of belly pattern. You get the right sumi pattern laid amongst it. Great. I mean, yeah, lovely body and lovely Ginrin quality to it as well. And then, of course, we have got the super Marmite fish, the golden corns. All rules out the window with these ones. Focus on the body. We've got, I think it's mainly the yellow type. We've got in these, no, that one there. We've got that's more actually the white type with the yellow pattern on the top. So I'd expect some more radical sort of change with that one, as with that one as well. That's white type with yellow pattern overlaid. Same there, actually. And then we get into these are the yellow type that can potentially develop the reds, Kanoko as well. So that's just a matter of time with them and seeing how they go. Just find that other one as well. There we go. That's the yellow type one as well for the red Kanoko. So loads and loads of choice, loads and bits. But I just wanted to sort of share them few tips if you're trying to analyze what's going to be right, what's going to happen. Another Kohaku there that, again, that one's a lot easier to read. So the Shiroji overall is a bit more progressed with that. You can see the sort of pinkiness at the back end, but loads of character going to happen there. I mean, the level of refinement and change you'll get from this, from the growth, from everything sort of pulling together, tightening up, and basically having more area on the body for areas of Shiroji to come through. Super strong piece, that one. Really like it. To be honest with you, there's not a bad one in the bunch, which is why the sort of general advice has been, if you're interested because you want to take part, you can almost kind of close your eyes and just point, and I think you're going to get a good fish at the end of it. Obviously, won't be perfect, but the NND one was pretty damning, to be honest. And yeah, this is some great fish, and I'm happy we managed to bring it in what I think is a very fair price. Again, all things considered, and an amazing opportunity for people to have fish at a top farm and growing on in Japan. That whole thing there of opening it up to as many people as we can, and for everyone to learn from as well. So there we have it. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Let's say spontaneous one, and I know it was a bit of a rant, but I do feel like that's some stuff there that I feel so passionate about. I wanted to get it through and make sure everyone understands exactly where I'm coming from with my channel. It's for the masses. If you don't like my simplistic approach and you want it more complicated, that's absolutely fine as well. But I'm not going to change and be the one who's going to sit here and tell you that you need a drum filter, you need to trickle, you need to run RO, you need all the most expensive equipment. You only need to buy female fish, and if you're not paying $3,000 a fish, it's going to be shit, because that's all an utter load of crap. So there we have it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'm really excited to get started on this filtration video, sort of changing that topic a bit and tapping into some sort of skills and knowledge and stuff that I've not had to use for a long time, to be honest with you, because I've not got customers testing it every single day. So if there's any particular bits you want to know on filtration, we'll pick through. Feel free to email it into me or drop me a PM, which we'll get the questions in when I'm doing it and make sure we cover all the bases. And then last one, I say back Wednesday evening for the auction, 6:30. And what was that last one, Steve? Just get that back for me. Sorry, I didn't know if someone was trying to have some banter with me there. Great giveaway. What you're doing with keeping clear. Thank you very much, Kevin. Much appreciated. And there we have it, folks. Auction 6:30, Taniguchi event. You've got until Thursday to get your orders in with your dealer. So best of luck with that. And apologies in advance for people who will be disappointed. But say keep your eyes peeled. Some dealers will just be buying anyway to distribute them after. So it's why it's important to get in touch with them well in advance to make your interests known. So there we have it. I'll see you on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your evening.